Well, good morning, and thank you to the City of DeBarry for hosting us, and to all the mothers out there, happy Mother's Day. So, Omar, without any further ado, let's jump right into what's going on in DeBarry.
Thank you, Sheriff. Good morning. Captain Omar McKnight, the commander here in District 6, DeBarry. For the month of April, we had a pretty successful month. I want to go over kind of some traffic numbers because that's obviously a hot topic in the whole county of Volusia. For the month of April, we actually had a slight increase in traffic stops. We had almost 1,885 traffic stops. We had 341 citations issued, which is up from 267 from the month of March. As far as for the calendar year so far, since January 1, we've got 3,500 traffic stops and 1,400 citations issued, and that's only for the city of DeBarry. So we're hitting traffic, we're being visible, which I think is reducing crime for the district as a whole. In the month of April, we did, we participated with the Citizens Academy here at DeBarry. Very successful event. We had all of our resources, special units, SWAT team, bomb team, everybody was out here. Sheriff was out here. We had a senator here. It was a very successful event. I think it went well.
Amen.
So, jump into crime.
Go ahead.
So the first crime we're going to talk about is a aggravated assault where a person was shot. I do want to preface that this happened in the county area of Orange City, did not happen in DeBarry. Our victim was leaving a campground, his trailer, when a neighboring resident came out with a shotgun and shot him in the shoulder, and multiple units responded to this call from Deltona, from District 2 and DeLand. We had a big footprint here. ISS came out and assisted as well. We got this guy into custody. I don't know if they want to speak any more on it, but it was a very, very great show of teamwork, and everybody was safe in the park. There was no issues.
Well, you're touching the fact that the guy that got shot returned fire, too. I mean,
He did. I guess there was our suspect in this case was making some comments that was heard. So he was armed just in case something happened. Something did happen, and he returned fire. The suspect was not hit that we know of. Let's go domestics. We had 12 domestic violence cases in the month. All 12 were cleared by arrest. Skip us down to our property crimes. The first one we'll talk about is a burglary at 211 Valencia Road. This was an attempted burglary. Deputies located the defendant inside of a blue Dodge Charger, attempting to rip open the glove box. They responded quickly, and he was arrested. He had a pretty extensive criminal history. He has 20 felony charges with 10 convictions and 12 misdemeanor charges with 10 convictions.
And he's a neighbor?
Yes, right next door. Got a burglary at 418 River Drive. This is an interesting case. The victims were out of town on vacation for about a week, and when they returned, their residence was in disarray and ransacked. Lots of jewelry was stolen, as well as some cash, and detectives did a great job on this case.
Thank you. This was an isolated incident while the victims were away out of town. Their grandson and an adult male friend of his that he had met over the internet advised the plan to go into the house, steal jewelry. We were able to locate the jewelry the same day as it was reported over in Orlando. We identified the adult male suspect after we had already interviewed the juvenile, and he confessed. The adult male suspect actually was an ex-Tavares PD detective, so you thought he would have known better to pawn the jewelry. But that day we were able to get an arrest warrant for him, and he was taken into custody that night. A lot of the jewelry was recovered from anywhere from the vehicle that we recovered from his residence all the way out to Kissimmee. So it was a successful case.
He wasn't that good of a detective.
No.
For starters.
No.
And you want to get into how the teenager meets this guy online and he wants to buy a $90,000.
Sure. The adult male, he had posted, he'd come into some money problems, couldn't afford this $103,000 car, so he was selling it for $90,000 on Facebook 6 months ago. So the juvenile reached out to him and said, "Hey, I want to buy this car," and apparently all this, the information that the juvenile was feeding him, this adult allegedly was believing him that he was actually going to get paid for this car. And then the juvenile told him that, "Hey, my grandparents have a bunch of jewelry that they said I can have to put down towards this car. Let's go get it." And but we know for a fact that they went in there knowing that grandparents weren't giving up this jewelry for free. So that was the plan, was to get this guy his money so he can sell this 15-year-old kid this $90,000 car.
Mayor.
I want to say that the Hellcat was on the street prior to the entry. There was no confusion about whether the jewelry was being given away. And there are LEOs on the street who viewed the Hellcat during the day prior to the break-in. And I want everyone to know that the victims are incredibly grateful for the help they received from Captain McKnight, and in particular from Detective Duffy. And it is true that most of the items have been located, but it was still a very difficult crime because of the family connection. The fact that a 15-year-old will want to buy a Hellcat is pretty beyond belief as far as that goes. The detective who left the Tavares PD in December, and this is happening in April, May, that raises a lot of questions as well. And for the victims, it is wonderful that they found most of the things, but the fact that to get her mother's jewelry back cost them $3,000 is a hard pill to swallow.
It is. A lot of victims go through that.
And it is tough for victims when, it's a family heirloom, so you can't walk from it. You can't just file an insurance claim and walk from it. You have to come up with actual cash to get your family heirlooms back because you can't buy them to replace them. So in this particular case, because they are close personal friends of my husband and I was aware of all of the side that the victims went through. And as I said, they're very grateful for law enforcement in DeBary and for the work on their case. It is still a very difficult kind of situation, and there are many red flags with how that happened. In particular, the adult that is involved, certainly the minor grandson needs to face serious repercussions for this. He has had an escalating pattern of behavior in the wrong direction, and this needs to be, in the view of many who know him, including myself, this needs to halt now, and so that needs to be serious repercussions.
Carla, you want to address what you know about the little cherub?
What the mayor is stating is correct. His crime has escalated, his drug use has escalated, and he's in a spiraling down. And we're trying to, in addition, deal with the crime, but deal with the services that are needed to help this young man out.
I will put out to you that I think me and you should sit down with the senator and our state reps to see if they could change the law when it comes to victims who lose their stuff to a pawn shop and then you are victimized again and have to pay that money. I know in a different life, there was legislation that was passed where that wasn't the case. You, as the pawn shop, you took all the responsibility when you have stuff like that coming in, and if it turns up it's stolen, oh well, you got to return it.
In this case, I think it was bought by an estate buyer who may have escaped the pawn shop regulations. So there are plenty of ways that this can be avoided, but I agree with you on changing the law. It is a hard pill for victims to choke down, to pay to get family heirlooms back. The other things, you can be on the cusp, okay? Do I want to get my insurance payout for the ring, or do I want to get the ring back for sentimental reasons and do whatever it takes?
Well,
But
like I
for
said,
family heirlooms, it's difficult, but I agree with you, Sheriff.
we could get with the senator and see if this session they could try to close that loophole.
Sounds good, thanks.
There was one ring that was the most valuable that we were able to track down. It took several days to track it down, and they gave that one back with no cost because they had no choice. It was through private sales, and so they
Right.
lost their money.
I appreciated that fact as well, but that could have just as easily been to an estate buyer over here or whatever, and then it would have been the same situation.
Okay, next up for crime, we had a fraud, 111 Glen Abbey Lane. Our victim moved into a rental property that she saw an ad on Facebook, and I guess it really wasn't a rental property, and she put up $6,000 up front and had moved in. Was there a couple days, and the detectives took over this case.
We've reached out to Facebook with some subpoenas, trying to get the suspect's information, so we're waiting on those to come back. Also, some phone numbers we're following up with, and those are all the leads we have at this time, but we just got some legal processes out right now.
Now, we have another fraud out here. Was it about $75,000 where they wired the money into the Bank of Hong Kong or something?
It was $43,000. Did you
40.
want to talk about that one?
Well,
It was the same day as the $1 million fraud in Daytona, or South Daytona.
yeah, unfortunately, once you wire money overseas, you can forget about it. There's no way to bring it back. Most of these people are overseas, so prosecution is impossible. And we try to educate the public. Unfortunately, there's no way to stop this. It's going to happen, unfortunately. But again, once you wire the money overseas, the money is gone.
They're working on a case now that has not only national but international ties to it, and we can't say too much about it, but we're working with all the federal agencies on it, and it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, because it's not involving 6,000, it's involving millions and millions of dollars that victims are giving up based on new Social Security number. Really, I can get a new Social Security number? Yeah. Everybody knows you get one Social Security number, but
Yes, it's a scam, and it's they impersonate government employees, whether it's the Social Security Administration, the FBI, and they direct the victims to purchase precious metals. They switch from cryptocurrency, which was the method of payment, to precious metals, which are very hard to track. It's kind of like cash. So they use couriers. You have the people running the scam who are in India, based on the information we have. You have the handlers that live here, who then hire these recruits who go around the country. They fly, they drive, and they pick up precious metals from the victims, and then they drop them at a particular location. They're in the Midwest. That's where they're concentrated. However, victims are all over the country. Once they get a victim on the hook, I mean, they will fly within that day and pick up the gold typically. We do have a case, like the sheriff said. It's the money loss is substantial. We have one person in custody that came here he's the courier, came here to pick up the gold. We were ready. We took him in custody. He decided he wants to cooperate. He identified the handler in California. We're working with the FBI, Secret Service, see if we can get him in custody as well. But it's a multi-layer scam. It's very, very complex and very well organized. So a lot of federal agencies are on board. The case here, we've taken the primary investigative. We are the primary investigative agency. They're going to assist as needed. So we'll see how it ends up.
very good. One more?
Next up, we have a motor vehicle theft, 930 Florida Avenue. The victim reported he heard his 2016 Dodge Challenger start up, and then he went outside and it was gone. Deputies located the vehicle near in the Circle K parking lot, DeBerry and I-4. They tried to stop the car. The vehicle fled eastbound on I-4. They tried to deploy stop sticks, but were unsuccessful. And we are unable to locate the car as of now, and ISS has this case.
We've searched LPRs for out of county. We haven't been able to locate it as of yet. We do have some other legal processes out we're not allowed to discuss at this time, but yeah, it's still out and about. No location, no known area where it's at right now.
Okay.
We had another motor vehicle theft, 131 Floridana Road in DeBerry. A 2020 gray Toyota Corolla was stolen from the driveway. The vehicle was recovered 3 days later. There was no damage, nothing missing from within. One would think maybe juveniles were out there, crime of opportunity, but ISS has this case.
Unlocked, keys in the car, right?
Yes.
When the deputies recovered it, they did process it for latent prints, touch DNA swabs for any DNA left behind. Items that were found in the vehicle that did not belong to the victim are being processed by our crime scene. So we're just waiting on the prints and other evidence to come back.
We had a shoplifting at CVS in Orange City where 2 black females entered the store carrying large empty, like, purse-style bags and raked a large amount of medications into their bags and then fled the scene in a blue Jeep Cherokee-style vehicle. We created some bulletins. We sent it out to CFIX to see if other counties have it, and as of now, we have no leads on this case. Our last property crime is a theft from a motor vehicle. The time frame on this is kind of sketchy, but our victim advised that he had a small .22 caliber handgun and $480 in cash stolen from within his vehicle, and ISS has this case.
Like the captain said, the date is kind of iffy. He reported one date, and then a couple days later, with a follow-up, he changed the date of the incident. So the detectives went back out, re-canvassed the area for video surveillance. They weren't unable to locate any. Deputies processed the vehicle, no prints, and we've got some search warrants out we're waiting on to come back.
Last crime we have to discuss is a child neglect case at Gateway Park. A family member left small children at the park for over an hour unsupervised. We contacted the guardian, and she was taken into custody. As for crime, that's it. For all I have coming up on the horizon for DeBerry, we'll be involved in the summer camp program in the month of June. We got some meetings coming up for our 4th of July event that's going to be here after this meeting, actually today. We'll have a footprint there, and then finally our last LPR is getting installed today on 1792. So that's good news.
Eric, you want to talk about narcotics? What we're seeing? Or Michael?
Yes, good morning, Sheriff. Eric Dietrich, I'm the captain of Special Investigations, oversees a West Volusia Narcotics Task Force responsible for investigating narcotics crimes in the city of DeBerry. Currently, they've made 5 arrests. They seized over 100 grams of cannabis, 9 grams of meth, 8.5 grams of bath salt, 3.5 grams of ecstasy, close to 2 grams of heroin, and 2 grams of fentanyl. Recently, they've been out the last 2 nights being proactive, working some complaints. They were made 2 narcotics arrests where they seized, 3 grams of ecstasy, 7.5 grams of meth, 2 grams of heroin. We're continuing the battle on fentanyl and the war on fentanyl. I'm happy to report that the overdoses countywide are down. Year to date, we've had 76 deaths countywide. Last year, same time period, we were at 95. That's a difference of 20%. Here in the city of DeBerry, we're actually down 100% on overdose deaths. We've had 1 year to date in 2023 through May 8th, and currently we're at 0 for the city of DeBerry. Overdoses for the city of DeBerry are down as well. In 2023, through May 8th, we had 19, and we're currently at 11 right now, which is a decrease of 66%. So the guys have numerous complaints here. They're continuously working. I'm not able to comment about what's happening, but I'm confident that those investigations will come to a conclusion here in the next couple weeks, and you'll see some more narcotics arrests and seizures out of the city of DeBerry.
When that happens, you and Vice Mayor are more than welcome to come out with us when they conclude their investigation, if you want to come out. Somebody want to touch on over to ODTF, what they're doing since we formed them?
Yes, sir. Since October of 23, when you formed the unit, we have SIS detective from narcotics, and we also have detectives from ISS who, every overdose that happens, either fatal or non-fatal, they go out, they interview whoever they can to identify the supplier of the deal. To date, we have looked at 250 cases. They have worked 58 cases to date, and 11 cases are currently being reviewed by the state attorney for murder charges.
So it's difficult, but we're at a point with manpower that the chief and the captains got together and said we could just create this unit that's all they're going to do is try to go after the bad guy. And the one good thing that's coming out of it is if you might not be able to charge them with murder, but we are getting them with substantial amounts of drugs. So when you go back there and they hit them and they're getting them, like I think the last house we were at was, we didn't think we could charge with murder, the last one we did, but they got a lot of trafficking amount of drugs.
Yeah, 25-year min-man trafficking charges.
So you might not get him back, but you can get him on the other end. So
The detectives are also spending a lot of time providing referrals and references to the Volusia Recovery Alliance.
yes, Karen, as you know, is a great partner with that. With one of the things coming up with this concert at the Speedway this weekend, they anticipate giving out 4,000 Narcan kits. Last year they gave out 2, and it was used probably a dozen times, more than that? Couple hundred times it was used. That's a sad state of where we're headed to. But go ahead, Eric.
Just one last thing, with school getting out soon, 2 weeks ago, we did an alcohol op. There was 5 stores in the city of DeBary that were targeted. We did not have any sales from those stores, which was a difference from when we did an alcohol op in January of this year, where those 5 stores were hit. We made 3 arrests. So our efforts are making a difference, and it looks like those stores are following the rule of the law.
Parks? With the summer coming up, park ops?
We do have some park ops that are coming up to target some of the lewd and lascivious behavior that's occurring in the parks, and we'll have a report on them after we complete that.
Nobody does that in DeBary, though. They do it in Port Orange and Ormond. They don't dare do that in DeBary.
Don't challenge them.
John, you want to give us an update on what's going on with our recruiting classes, training, graduations coming up?
Sure.
Nothing like catching you flat-footed. Don't worry, because Brian Cobb's next.
I got it.
And then Todd.
Good morning. I'm Lieutenant John Cord. I'm the Assistant Training Commander. Currently, we have Class 06. They're getting ready to graduate in a couple weeks. They're also getting ready to head to the Holocaust Museum in St. Pete the day after their graduation. Additionally, we are prepped and ready for Class 7 to start June 10th. And everything else is pretty much status quo for training. We have a Guardian class right now that's should be finishing up the end of May, and then we're getting ready to start another Guardian class June as well.
Very good.
That's what we got for training.
Todd, since we spoke of Guardians, why don't you talk about what's going on with the school district and
I'm Captain Todd Smith, the commander of the Youth Services Section. So this is the first year that we're going to be adding a Guardian to a private school. That's very exciting. We've been working on that. They're training the Guardian now. We started with one school, and anytime we have interest, we're going to continue to add to that. Also this year, we've had a lot of successes this year. We have SRDs or SROs in all of our middle and high schools, so all secondary schools. So we compared the 8 weeks before and the 8 weeks after, and what we saw was basically a 50% reduction in incidents such as gaggle alerts or weapons on campuses. And then we compared the same time frames for referrals from last year to this year. We saw about a 10% reduction there in referrals. Also, we've installed 141 vape detectors in our schools so that we can start to combat that and try to ensure that we can get that under control. We're working very hard. Obviously, that's a continuing problem that's been since the beginning of time with smoking cigarettes and stuff like that. Also, we've got Narcan in every single school, and now we also have Stop the Bleed kits in every school. So in the event that we have an incident, our Guardians have either the Narcan, or SROs and SRDs have the Narcan and the Stop the Bleed kits to handle incidents such as that. We also have just signed a contract with Raptor for reunification. So basically, before you would have to fill out a paper card. There was a very antiquated process. Now we're going to have it all on the application where they can track all the students. We know where they're at. We can get them reunified much quicker. And we're rolling out reunification training during the summer for all the principals and assistant principals and the key stakeholders involved in that. Now we're also working on the changes with House Bill 1473 and the new regulations where every building has to have the doors shut and locked. All the classroom doors must be shut and locked, and also all the gates must be shut and locked, as well as mandatory reporting requirements. So we're pushing forward. We're making sure that all of our SROs and SRDs have the correct mental mindset, and making sure that we're getting it done for everybody.
Thank you for everything you're doing. Carlos, speaking of vaping, you want to talk about a young lady that came to us the other day with her mother had overdosed from fentanyl, and she was there yesterday?
Oh, yes, we had a young lady who was vaping, and she had fentanyl in her vape, and she did not know that because they share vapes. But this young lady, her mother overdosed. So we are really trying to work with her, put services in place. She's being raised by her father and grandfather and grandmother to try to help her get on track so she doesn't go down the same road as her mother, and explaining to her the importance of, you know, what's out there in the vapes, because these kids, they just don't know they're coming in, and if they're on probation, they have to take your UA test, and they're coming back with morphine, meth, and fentanyl in the vapes, because it's THC plus one of those, and in some cases, maybe more, depending, and they're buying them off the black market, and the kids just don't know what they're smoking, and they share.
Paul, real quick, you want to touch on how we handle sex offenders, the checks that we do, the units that we have?
Yes, sir. The career criminal unit, which is comprised of 2 detectives right now out at operations, they complement patrol. Patrol does the regular checks of sex offenders on a quarterly, monthly, and/or yearly basis, depending on what the offender's status is. Then the career criminal unit proactively goes out and checks them, spot checks them, along with probation, state probation and parole, which is also co-located at operations. And they try and find them, making sure they're not getting onto the internet or emails or all that. And we've been successful in the Barry area where we have had nothing but compliance so far.
Good. All right, Captain, or sorry, wanna-be Captain. Mother's Day's coming up. Why don't you talk about the beach? Thank God you got rid of that goddamn poison ivy you had.
It's getting much better. What did I do? I'm Lieutenant Cobb. I'm the Assistant Commander of District 1. Since the last time we were here, District 1 now encompasses all of the unincorporated areas of beachside, from the ICW east to the ocean. So we're working the patrol zones that are in Ormond by the Sea, Wilbur by the Sea, at Bethune Point, and then obviously all of the sand up and down the coast. As the Sheriff said, we're preparing for Mother's Day weekend and Memorial Day weekend, but we've been in full summer swing since the beginning of March. The last 3 weekends, we've had over 20,000 entries on the beach each weekend. We anticipate those entries going up, but the guys are doing a great job running the beach efficiently, keeping it open and safe for the general public. We've made a lot of arrests for the types of offenses like these park ops or the lewd and lascivious type behavior on the beach, narcotics, and just ensuring that the beach is somewhere you can bring your family, come down. You're not going to see drug paraphernalia. You're not going to see things that you don't want to see, and just keep the area safe.
We won't comment on dogs.
Don't bring your dog to the beach.
Vice Mayor,
Yes, sir.
you got anything?
No, I just want to thank you guys. I mean, I was part of the Jeep Beach crew and drove the beach and the speedway, and I just want to thank, I saw you guys out there. It was great to see everyone. It seemed to be controlled, so I'm glad that our group was not, I don't know, I don't want to know if it was bad, but we heard it was really good, and you guys were really good and very, very, very visible. So that was very good. Thank you.
Loud music was the #1 complaint.
Well, I complain about that too.
Loud music was
It's just too loud.
Especially from the condos on the beach. That was the #1 complaint, was loud music. Mary, you got anything?
No, I have appreciated the review, and I am so happy that things are in the right direction in DeBary. Every statistic, every category of crime that we've discussed, things are going in the right direction. For that, I'm very appreciative.
Mr. City Manager?
Thank you, Sheriff. Just want to thank Captain McKnight and his staff there. We're working on a few initiatives in DeBary regarding obviously speeding, golf carts, enforcement and stuff like that. The LPR is important, and that will conclude every entry inside of DeBerry will have LPR, at least the opportunity to capture, so we know who you are if you commit a crime in DeBerry. And so that's a great deterrence, and we really appreciate your cooperation and getting all that enacted. Thank you, Captain.
We appreciate your support, and we look forward to what happens on May 13th. Chief, get the final word.
Keep up the great work.
All right. Thank you all for everything. Thank you.